Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you. So I'm a career finance director, financial controller. I've spent my life in a finance team. My specialty was reporting back to a US parent company. They had their consolidation, their accounting standards. I then, being located here in Europe, I ran the international operations. And I did this in a lot of different companies, a lot of different systems I've used. And at the last company, TrustWave, we implemented NetSuite. So for 3 years, we operated kind of with an older type system. We implemented Oracle NetSuite, and I used it for 3 years. So I got to see one company, one finance team actually benefit of making these kind of changes to a good foundation in your systems. The other company there, Fox Interactive Media, you're going to hear me talk about them a little bit. This was mainly MySpace, so kind of older technology and things like that. Let's go back to kind of some history. If you understand the kind of core, where is accounting, where is finance systems all being played? If you look at paper, everything was done in the paper age. And I was at university, and everything was done on paper. I didn't use a computer during my university days. Can you imagine the innovation during that phase? If you wanted to add a new column onto a report, it would take decades for the whole industry to get there. So again, the innovation during that period was crawling, very slow. There was a big jump then to mainframe computers. Now, in this age, again, that a lot better, but it was, massive systems. You needed a room, you needed money. It was very locked. It could only do a very few things. So the innovation during this phase, maybe at a walking pace. And then there was a big jump to software. So now you've got your companies like Oracle, and they're all building up these great software-type products. And it doesn't have to even be within accounting. It's just a lot of software-type companies out there. A big jump, but during this phase, it's now at a running pace. So much development going on. But there were still some problems. Right? It took a long time sometimes to implement because it was an on-premise system. You wanted it to do certain things, and the technology product hadn't been developed yet, so you would customize it, you would configure it. But then you were kind of locked into that as well for a longer period of time, maybe 3-5 years, until later you would say, okay, now I'm going to take the benefit of what the product companies have been building, and I'm going to go through a new implementation to get all this new functionality. So when we then talk now about the true cloud, this is no longer just taking software and removing it from your on-premise and putting it into a data center. If they've done that, you're still in the software age. You're still locked into this one version. The true cloud is all about everyone being on the same version of that software. What that means now is instead of product companies in the software age building products and no one using it, you would have to sell it and implement it one by one. At this point, product companies and partners are all out there building functionality, and everyone has access to it immediately. So now more can be invested. Companies are now, so now we're, instead of crawling, walking, running, everything's going now at a flying pace. So fast, no one person, even if you're the owner of the company, can keep up sometimes with all the technology and functionality that your own company has built, let alone the competition. So a lot of challenges up here. And when you're a FinTech company and you're starting out, you've got a lot of these issues to deal with. And absolutely. So when it comes to the back office functionality, what do most people do? They don't spend as much time and effort. You still have to build a product service, sell it, deliver it. So what happens to the back office? You throw people at it, you might outsource it. I get that. Of course it happens. At some point, people think, okay, I need to upgrade I need to upgrade and get a better system. But the kind of, what is the timing for this? Now, the hard part with accounting is that accountants, the people, regardless of what kind of technology they have in place, they'll get the job done. That's what accountants do. So it's one of those things where when you then say we should get a better system, the problem is then upper executives kind of think, wait a second, Why? Why do we need that? Because you're getting the job done. What they don't realize is you're working till midnight, you're working on the weekends, you're working on holidays. So again, it's one of those kind of timing issues. So again, we know there's challenges. You got to deal with those first. What we're going to try and do is talk about kind of when and what you should do. So notice here, this is from one of Oracle's kind of business guides. It's just that title there, need to scale with ease. But let's talk about why. Why do you need to scale with ease? Well, it's all about change. In today's world, things are changing. They're changing fast. Now, think of regulations. Computer regulations are changing. Even when government regulations are changing. So even when government regulations change, would they have done this in the older software age, demanding data being sent straight to the government, to their systems, almost on a live basis, some of these countries are doing? They wouldn't have been able to do that because no one would have had that capability. So again, you have to think of why are things changing? Sometimes the technology is already there, so therefore government will change these regulations. What about customers? What about your customers? Well, they're changing too. Now that one, we all know in the last 2 or 3 years, that wasn't even, that was actually the environment. It was something external. But the customers, their demand for things, your products, your services, they've started changing as well. And so you need to be able to deal with this, change, adapt. Your suppliers have probably changed. What can they provide you? Will it get there on time? The delivery. What about the pricing of it now? Now that's kind of changing. And you need to have plans for this and think about things and scale. And again, it's not just about scaling your business. It's about changing. It's about adapting. What about the competition? That was another challenge of FinTech, competition. And here as well, you need to be able to make changes with ease when you see your competitors. You're not going to be the only one. If you see an idea for a product or service, somebody else sees it as well. And if they start to come up with something different, something marketable, something you need to change. Remember when I mentioned MySpace, right? When I was there, we weren't even looking at Facebook. Facebook came along and something happened whereby they couldn't make those changes easily and fast enough. We identified it. We saw Facebook. Nobody was even using it hardly yet, but we saw what was happening. Yet they couldn't change with ease fast enough. And by then Facebook took off, overpassed them, and the rest is history on that. So that was why. Now what? What do you need for that foundation? This, whether you're back office or whether it's your own company that you're building a product or service, you need these things. And only one of them is technology. And I mentioned the true cloud. That's just one part of it. You'll hear other people talk about things like a single database. Well, that's very important, right? Single database is important because that's where all your data is. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's all processes. It's all, reports and things like that. So there's a single database. But another key thing is that ease of change, ease of scaling and adapting. It can't be that old type of on-premise single solution that had to be scripted and configured that wasn't changeable. It would take, if you need to add a new field, you need a new report, whatever you need should be done nearly instantaneously. Just test it in a sandbox and put it in, and within so many minutes is what it should be. Not 6 months it'll take us to build this out and script it and code it for one change. So again, with that technology, it has to be easy to change. The other thing is processes. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because don't think that all your processes need to be in the system. If you get a piece of paper, an invoice on your desk, you have a process. What do you do with that piece of paper? Processes can be external, they can be internal. The third thing is the people. What are people doing? People are handling the processes, but they're making improvements. They're going up the stairway. They're improving it. So they're taking processes that are external and they're moving it to being internal. Or they're taking a process that was internal, maybe a bit manual, and they're trying to get more efficient. How can we automate it? Things like that. So again, the three things you're looking at: visibility, efficiency, and automation. Point here, don't think you need everything 100% automated. It's okay to have exceptions. It'd be great to have everything automated, wouldn't it? But What happens when you need to change? You're going into a new territory, or your competition has some new twist on their product or something, and you need to make a change. You need to invoice differently, or it's your own product that you need to change. The key is, don't think everything has to be automated. It's okay to have exceptions. The key is, do you have the visibility of what was an exception? And that visibility should be instantaneous, right? It's that cloud system, true cloud system. It's right there on a dashboard. Whatever you think you need to see at a certain point in time, if there's certain criteria hit, it should be immediately notified to you on a dashboard or sent to you in an email or whatever app you want it to be. So the visibility is efficient, is immediate. And then how efficient are you? If your visibility is that there were 50 exceptions and you need to go click into each one and spend 5 minutes with each one, that's not very efficient. But if you could say, oh, I've got 50 exceptions, you click on a page and you can actually see all the data right there. You can review it in bulk, maybe drill into one or two if you need to. But you gotta be efficient as well. And that's what the people are doing. The people are constantly trying to make improvements. You don't need a year to implement something. You could actually implement it as quick as possible, start using it, you've got 50% automation. You've got a little visibility, some efficiency. And then it's the people that are making the improvements. So again, instead of a year-long implementation, use it in 3 months. Think about it, you've got 9 months of going up the stairway, making those improvements. And you've used the system, and it's tailored now for your business. It's hard to do an implementation when you haven't used the system yet. You think you know about it, but until you start using it, and you take your kind of knowledge of your industry and your background and combine it then with using that software, you're the one who's going to be able to go up the stairway and make those improvements, you and your team. I had a finance team of 17 people. I didn't use the system, but I knew what it could do, and I helped those staff actually build it and do everything for them. Notice here, this is one of our business guides. I noticed this. It's data. Everything's data. Everybody likes it, sees an importance for it. So I just wanted to kind of use that to go into the data. When you talk about the technology, processes, and people, it's all about getting the data into your system. Now, could be manual, could be an upload, could be integrated, depends on where you're at in that stairway of process. But you have to make sure that, again, in the old days, if you wanted to add a new field to get more data, the companies would say, well, I got to build it, code it, script it, do all this kind of stuff with it. That's just to get the data into it, let alone the process around that data or the reports. So again, everything needs to be very simple and easy to use. I want to add a field. I want to upload the data. I want to get it all in there. Once there's data on a record or transaction, now there's processes. Is it notifying somebody that something needs to be looked at? Is there a potential error? Is it not automated? Whatever's going on, there's tons of processes going around all of that data. Now from there, once that's done, now you have reports. And every report should be doing the same thing. Standard reporting. Out of your entire database of all records and transactions, what do you pull into this report? Which transactions, which records? And then how do you want it to look? Even if it was, and that criteria for what you're pulling in should be, even if it's a custom field that you created 5 minutes ago, you should be able to use that immediately as the criteria and or displaying that data. So again, all of this kind of things with the reports. That's standard reports. Then you can have advanced reports. So instead of exporting it to Excel to do lookups, great, let's do advanced reporting. Let's do a lot more of that. Or what about ultimate reporting? Business intelligence tools. Is that in your system, your single database, or do you need to get the data and move it to something that is actually a huge business intelligence type tool? So again, all around that data, entering it, processing it, reporting it. One of the things I noticed on here, it's the fourth item, right in the center, and adopting technology as soon as it's advantageous. The yellow is finance, and the gray is non-finance executives. Okay, what does this tell me? It tells me right away, because I don't agree with this as an industry, as businesses. This tells me that the people surveyed here are all using that true cloud technology, and that's who they surveyed for this. So a lot of finance people are like, yes, we got the accounting systems, we got the systems. So that's the first thing that tells me. But the reason why I disagree with it is, again, that thing about your last thing you think about is the back office systems, right? As soon as the technology is available, advantageous, do people use it? No, because we're going to concentrate on other stuff. We're going to leave the back office to just getting it done. I mean, the audits are fine. None of the directors are going to jail. So again, the key thing here is that if your company, you've built a product, you've sold it, you've delivered it, if you know your company will survive for the long term, even during these periods of unease or changes and things like that, if you know your company will survive, that's when you should be taking advantage of it. Not waiting until you're trying to scale, and then you have to pick the system out, you have to implement it, you got to train on it, you got to go up the stairway on it. Instead, you could have it earlier, start training on it, going up the stairway, making improvements. You don't want to have to then find out, well, later when we scale, we're actually going to need a new system, starting at the bottom of the stairway. So the key, and again, you don't have to buy a system. You could be a large company or a small company. You can buy the same system, and because it's true cloud, pay as you go, pay what you use. They can decide on the pricing and what do they turn on and things like that, right? So again, each of these product companies, and even when you're using partners, they all have the same thing. You can start small and expand. So again, kind of the timing of the issue, I really don't agree that businesses are doing that. And again, why is it? It's because accountants, the people part, right? Technology process people, the accountants, they are great. They get the job done. Again, working really late and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter what technology and process they've been given. Accountants get the job done. So it's almost like we've hurt ourselves. So again, just, as the executives, as business leaders and things like that, you need to also take that time. You've got a company, it's going to survive. Actually, you should be taking advantage. The other one is the third point there. Executives can easily get data to support decisions. What does that tell you? Finance are saying, yes, we've got the data, you can see it. And what do the other teams say? The other executives, they're saying no. Because you've got the system, the accountants. They've gone up the stairway. They've made improvements. The finance is doing great. But what about the marketing team, the sales team, operations, the executives, dealing with strategy? They get some good reports, but they're not as happy. It's because you need a business partner with them. You've gone up the stairway. The finance team has gone up the stairway. They've got the system. They're going up the stairway. They're making improvements. So you freed up your time. Go to the other departments. What do you need? Out of all that data in the single database, what processes do you need? What automation? What visibility, efficiency? What do you need to make your department, to make our company even better? And because you've gone up the stairway, you've already done this stuff in the system, you can then come back to the system and you can then quickly make improvements. And you'll notice a shift. Instead of being reactive to their requests, you'll notice a shift. You'll start being proactive. I get what what we're doing as a whole company. And you'll notice that you'll be proactive. You're giving them things that they haven't even asked for directly, but you understand indirectly what's going on. So you'll notice that shift. And again, that's where the company should even be. That's where, instead of it just being a finance back office system, your technology processes and people are actually helping your entire company out. So the one thing here is a true cloud system. Again, it's not just the system. It's technology, processes, and people. And the visual there is that stairway. It's making the improvements. Okay, that's the one takeaway that you should know, so that when you're talking to all these other companies and partners and things like that, that's what you're looking for. And again, what are you trying to do? What is technology process people doing, and what is the stairway doing? It's improving your visibility, the efficiency, and the automation. And so I think we have some time for questions.
Thank you, Thomas. Oh, almost. Okay, almost had a disaster there, trying to rush on stage. If anyone has any questions, please put your hand up. I've got a few questions here as well. So Thomas, your talk was all about the three pillars there, technology, process, or people. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which one of those is most important?
So it's not that one's important, it's which one should you be kind of thinking about and concentrating on first. I'm telling you the people part. And again, this wasn't even a seated question. I've had this before. The people, I sort of alluded to this about the people. The accountants, right? They're getting the job done. The problem is they've spent too much time, and they're just processing manual transactions till midnight, weekends, etc. Right? Your staff are educated, they're experienced, they know your company, they know your industry. You may even have a superstar employee there. You don't know it because they're spending so much time doing manual work. Or what about a reconciliation? I mean, accountants will spend so much time, forget materiality. I mean, they will get down to the dollar, euro, pound, the exact. They'll spend so much time because they're taught there's a right and a wrong, a debit and a credit. And so I wouldn't concentrate necessarily on the people first. I would say you're looking for the technology. You're looking for the technology that has the ease, the single database, all that kind of stuff, and it's the processes that can be improved in that technology. So, yeah.
Okay, one of your final slides there says that it was, I think it was probably the final one or second to last. It said that we can get data to support decisions. Playing devil's advocate, do we just make the data fit the outcome that we desire?
Okay. So think about when you have that mission statement at the top and you start to, okay, we're now going to take that mission statement, we're going to say we want certain gross profit, certain revenue. And then every department down below keeps going, down to where you're getting down to the junior salespeople, where you're saying, I want you to make so many phone calls, so many things, all that kind of stuff, right? You've put it down. Then you start to analyze that data because you're looking for it. Does it fit? But here's the thing, and I know we talk about data, and there's too much data, sometimes inaccurate data. Obviously, you got to work on that. But here's the thing, don't just analyze the data that you were looking for. Now that you have all the data, you're using the system, you're going up the stairway, you could actually start to create new metrics, new KPIs out of all that data. Just how do I want to analyze it? How can we look at it better? And what will happen is you'll start to notice some things we weren't looking for that we noticed. So when that information flows up, now that department should start changing things. And it almost goes all the way up to the top so that, and that's why, again, the question here becomes, if you were using the older technology, you didn't have this ease of looking at things and stuff like that. So again, at that point in the old days, the software age, you were stuck just looking for what you think you're trying to have as a metric. Yeah. Whereas now it's so easy to make changes, you want to see different metrics, different things. And you know it's going to change. You know, if you have a metric and it's the exact same thing you were looking for, you kind of know, that must not have been correct. There must be something else to this story. So that's why you need all that data, all the metrics to look at it.
Okay, just one last chance for any questions from the audience. Yeah, question down here. Ilkan, can we just get the microphone down here, please? Oh, okay, sorry, just question at the back, and then we'll come down here as well. If you just start saying your name, where you're from, please.
I'm David Collier, and my experience is mainly in the nuclear industry. One of the things that I believe is key to this is the management processes and the input of the manager. Now, I always, and this is me personally, I always used to get my secretary to, at the end of the day, collect up problems that my people had. And that was in their last hour. They got those. She prepared them for me. And I, in the first hour, would then go through each of these problems so that we resolved the problem within the first hour, and the rest of the team could then get on and do their job. And having done that, you soon, other things you're talking about, you have star players. Star players will start to appear once you bring these issues and bits in, because they will identify them for you. And one of the things, again, I used to do was at the end of each year, or before the end of each year, the processes and procedures, because being a tech company, you have them. I used to delegate the procedures and processes to be looked at to make sure that they fit the process still. And I would give this by delegating them to all the team members to get them all to look at individual ones that I believe they were most suited for, and then to revise them. And it kept stuff fresh, and it involved them. And they learned in the process, because I used to insist that they basically, when they were making recommendations, they had bothered to find out what it actually was they were talking about.
Sorry to interrupt. Is this a question? I haven't heard a question yet, that's all.
No, it's not.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Thank you for sharing that. Can we just come down and take the question down here at the front very quickly, please?
And I can answer. I can just comment as well.
Please do.
Yes, managers very important.
Please put your hand up.
Now that people are working a lot more remotely, managers have to manage by tasks, problems. That's what you need the visibility for immediately, and the efficiency of dealing with it.
Okay, thank you. Please have a brief question and a very brief answer.
Thanks. It's Tim Morgan. I write FinTech research for KBW and Stifel. And we're doing a lot of work on B2B, and I'm just interested in the subject on automation that you raised, and the degree to which you see the reluctance of large corporates to make those big investments, moving to cloud and moving to modern systems being a problem to B2B achieving the kind of growth outcomes that a lot of investors would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, Salesforce took off because the world was ready for sales information in the cloud. Oracle NetSuite actually started before Salesforce. The world wasn't ready for it. I think with these big companies and things like that, I think they just, again, because they didn't have the technology process people in place and they had so much going on, to me, it was really hard to then say, we want a piece of this, a piece of that in the cloud. And so to me, it was just that they had grown so big, so fast, so strong without the foundation of technology, process, and people in all their departments, all their company. And so the reluctance is that they know it's going to be a long project. There isn't the quick turnaround of investment and things like that. So I think, yeah, that's the problem with the bigger companies, that it's taken them a longer time. Hopefully everybody understands that, again, if you're small, you're starting out, or medium-sized, like now's the time to act when you have some time, if you find the right time, yeah.
Perfect place to leave it. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.